Hey, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not thinking who I'm going to screw over today, who I'm going to argue with today. Quite the contrary, actually. I'm trying to live a happy life. I'm trying to finish a project, a non-for-profit. I'm trying to live this world somewhat better than the way I found it. Now, having said that, when somebody does something to fuck me over, well, now, the game changes. And that's when I'm going to retaliate. That's when I'm going to stand up for myself. And now that we have this kind of technology, I will make sure that I'll make it public. The cable company cut my cable and it was unjustifiable. And I have all the evidence. I'll make a video about it. Put it out there in the world and, people can see both sides. Now with customer service the way it is, nobody gives a shit about anything, Me making videos about my union, about my work, I'm going to keep on doing it. You know why? Because they fuck me over, okay? Everything the union stands for, everything that the union was founded upon was trashed. They fucked me over. They fuck over many of my friends, hundreds of families. So what am I going to do? Sit here and not complain? Funny, somebody in the comments said, stop pointing fingers, get therapy. That's fine. I'll keep pointing fingers and I'll do therapy. Funny thing is, I did therapy in my 50s now. Great, I loved it. Therapy makes you see things from different angles that, it definitely makes you a better person. There is no drawbacks on doing therapy regardless of your age. Now, me talking about Danny Price and some of the leadership within our union, Danny Price, I'm sure he's a nice guy. In fact, when he was my union rep on Engine Line, I told him he was the best union rep I've ever had. Now, when he became a president of our local, I voted the guy in, but I'm also going to keep him accountable. And obviously, he was complicit on all these mandates because he never fought back. I remember going to meetings at the union hall and I told him all of this to his face. I look at him straight in the eye, tell him to his face. He had the balls to tell me, Marcelo, in 27 years, you've never stepped on this place. It's funny that in 27 years, I never felt the urge to step in that place and complain until he got there. Sometimes people have the right ideas. People go in it to somewhat change the system. But then the system ends up changing you. And that's what I have a problem with. Because I knew Danny Price. I knew, he was the right guy for the job. But the institutions are so flawed now that it doesn't matter who's in there. Danny Price just happened to be the collateral damage, I guess. You follow a certain agenda, you follow a certain narrative. Fuck the worker. The reason I called him out is because he should have stand up for us. He should. I told him, shut the plant down. I told him, I told artists, I told everybody. But no, when we're divided like this, we are in a losing battle. And the union created this. The union created this division in the workplace. And that has to change. I leave you with this clip right here, short clip. Amazing conversations by two prominent people, very smart guys. One is Aaron Rodgers, a professional football player, and the other one is Tucker Carlson. I hope you watch it. I hope you like it. And the reason I'm making this clip is not to argue with people. It's the opposite. It's to bring us all together.
And for them.
I have a lot more compassion for them, actually.
Yeah.
And empathy. And I've been strong against the vax, against mandates, against lockdowns, against
of course
all of it. I think the last few months I've been looking at things a little bit differently, and I think it's time for a lot of us to maybe adjust some of the approach that we're doing. I mean, it obviously hasn't worked. We've been trying to wake people up, I think, with the studies that are out there now.
Exactly. With the science.
All the time, with the articles, with the change in stances by everybody from Chris Cuomo on down who have, either had vaccine injuries or side effects or just look at things differently. And it's caused me to, I think, have a little bit more empathy and compassion for those people who had a ton of fear, thought they were doing the right thing for themselves, for their friends, for their families, and went through all the mass formation psychosis that we all did.
Yes, that's right.
Full court propaganda against us, and are now going, oh shit, maybe that wasn't the best. Maybe they lied to us. Maybe they weren't being truthful. Maybe this wasn't safe, even though they said from the beginning 100% safe and effective. Everybody from Biden to the head of the FDA and CDC on down, WHO. So I think it's important for us to, if we want to make a difference, which I do, and I don't necessarily want to be way a part of the conversation anymore, is how do we call people forward to with compassion and kindness that just come over to the side of being awake to what's going on, because I think we all need to come to the grips that this could happen again. So how do we call these people forward to in love and acceptance, not forgetting what happened, how we were treated, how we were canceled, everybody from yourself to me, to Joe, to mutual friends that we have, but calling people forward to step into the truth, and that there isn't shame and guilt on this side, which I think our side, justifiably at times because of the way we were treated, feels like we need to kind of get back.
I totally agree with you.
But at some point, I was talking with Joe about this, kind of off camera at Rogan, but how do we kind of bring everybody back on the same side? Because this has been very divisive, and everything in our culture now is so divisive.
Yes.
But how do we get people more aligned on the same page? And I think it's only with love and compassion and forgiveness. And I admit, I've been very combative about this because I was attacked personally.
Yes.
A lot of times when you're attacked, you want to just fucking fight back.
I have been too. I agree.
Of course. But it hasn't really accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I'm in my mind, my ego is well, I'm going to be able to convince these people that they were wrong.
And you throw the science back at them and you think somehow that's going to matter?
Yeah,
the people who talk about science all day actually care about science? Not at all. Of course, that has no effect.
How has it been for you? Because you were one of the first to talk about it all the time on Fox. And actually that's what made me tune in every night was what's Doc going to say tonight?
They didn't want me to do that.
But there was obviously some cancelization, some shaming, some, I'm sure that may not have been why they let you go, but it wasn't. There was a lot of people who. It
was a sign of disobedience. And by the way, I didn't want to be disobedient. Actually, I didn't want to fight about the vax at all. I never.
But you had all the people that end up going on Rogan. You had Robert Malone on there. You had Andrew Kirsch. You had Pierre Corey. You had Peter McCullough. right? I mean, all these people in the beginning.
Yeah, right away, because I just had a different
the doctor from
understanding.
Stanford as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
I had a different understanding of science, which was that it's not a set of facts. It's a process. It's a way of thinking.
Yeah.
And
that it needs to be questioned.
That's the whole point
Otherwise,
of science.
it's propaganda.
It's an unending series of questions. We think we know this. How do we know? It's not so different from what journalism used to be, which is like a process of, it's a way of thinking. It's skepticism, polite, reasonable skepticism. It's rooted in reason, though, in the belief that we can get to the truth or closer to the truth using logic. And that was just abandoned immediately. That was the tell for me. I know nothing about vaccines. I still don't really know much about vaccines, but I know a lot about people. And I saw people saying things like, just shut up and do it because it's science. And then I thought, well, that's the opposite of science.
Yeah.
And it was, and I also got a very sinister vibe right away. And just on my gut level, I was like, I don't know what this is. I'm not doing that. And neither's my family. But the weird thing is, that's why I so appreciate what you just said, is I don't really know that many people who got vaxxed. I don't live in a vaxxed world at all. My kind of people, given where I live and the people I like and how I spend my free time, like they're not the people who got the vax. So I don't spend really any time with people who would defend that. And I think I need to think much more about it and realize like all of us live in our own tiny little worlds, and we think we're mainstream, but we're not. And
through the algorithm, we're in an echo chamber, whether we want to be or not.
Exactly,
because that's what we're seeing.
No, it's totally right.
Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day, maybe it was you, do you know anyone who didn't get the vax who's upset he didn't get the vax?
Yeah.
Does anyone regret that decision?
No.
No. Right. Not one person ever. But people who did get the vax really, which is why I love what you said, I think they do regret it.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're doing something wrong, you're very defensive about it. I used to smoke cigarettes, and they tried to make me feel shame for smoking cigarettes. And I would always like smoke a cigarette in public. Like, yeah, I'm smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Because I sort of knew you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. It's not good for you. But I got my hackles up and I was more aggressive. Would you like a cigarette? Would your child like a cigarette?
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of wound up being that way. You know what I mean? Because I knew what I was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
And don't you feel like that's part of what's going on here?
I think there's a big swath that's like that. There's the other swath that goes, I did this because you told me to do this, and this was mandated.
Yes.
And now you're walking back all those things you said to me back then. Now there's some anger. So there's the whole population that's like, I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to wear my mask in public, and I'm going to get another booster in your fucking face, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then there's the other group that's like, oh no, I did this to keep my job, to like keep from being canceled, to keep you off my back. And now you're going to walk back and say, you didn't say it was safe and effective, and you didn't say I wouldn't get or I wouldn't acquire or transmit COVID. Like, what do you mean? You're changing history. That's the only reason I got it. You said this is the only way to be safe, and there was no side effects. And that's not bullshit. That was all stuff that was said. And there's videos out there you can check out. So there's that side of the population that's like, hold the fuck on. Like, you said all this stuff. Now you're walking this back.
That's how I feel.
You know? And then there's the other set that doesn't want to engage at all, that did it and now has a lot of fear around it, a lot of shame around it. And so I think two of those three groups of people we can kind of like bring in, there's compassion and kindness. There's compassion and kindness for the person that's still wearing a mask too.
Especially that person.
And I can't relate to that type of fear, but I understand what it's like to be scared of things and just the fear to feel like you still have to do that. Like, that's a really shitty place to live. So like showing compassion and kindness, and it's easy to make fun of those type of people when you're on the way other side. But like, what does that actually accomplish? If we want to come together more, and look, I'm guilty of it at times for sure, but like, I'm tired of that. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I want to be a part of bringing people together.
I so strongly agree with that.